Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you my Halloween reading recommendations. So these are books that I think are perfect to read around Halloween, just in terms they're a little spooky. They have that like atmosphere that I think is totally perfect to read around this time of year. So Halloween isn't like my favorite holiday per se. I'm more of a Christmas girl, so like it's not like something that I seek out, like a book that will be good for Halloween. But these are ones that I think if you are like a Halloween person or just looking for something atmospheric to read around this time of year, I think this one would be perfect. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So starting out, I first have The Bone Garden by Tess Gerritsen, and this is a historical fiction murder mystery. I think that's the best way to describe it. But I read this close to Halloween a couple years ago, and I think atmospheric wise totally perfect. So premise of this, it follows this woman present day who moved into this house that was built in the 1800s, and when she's tending to the garden, like cleaning up the house, she finds this body that was buried in the garden. And so when the police come, they find that the body was actually there around the mid 1800s, and she's very curious as to how this body has been there for like 150 years and no one has really like what's the story behind that. So when she's researching the past, the story will flash back to Boston in the 1830s, and so it follows this girl named Rose whose sister just died during childbirth, so she's left taking care of her niece, and then also this other man who is a medical student, and their paths end up crossing when they are somehow involved with these murders that are taking place. But what I really love about this is just the atmosphere. Like, I can totally, the way Tess Gerritsen describes Boston during this time, just with like, you know, fog, and like there's like this cloaked figure, like it is totally eerie, but I could totally picture what Boston looked like during this time. It's just so atmospheric that I think it's just a perfect Halloween to read, especially if you do like historical fiction mysteries. Like, I think this is a perfect blend of those two genres, so definitely check this one out. It was like mind-blowing. It was so good, so I couldn't recommend this book enough. So if you are a fan of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on Netflix, I think this is the book for you. I read this one a couple months ago and I loved it. So it is The Season of the Witch, and this is a prequel to the series, and so I was a little skeptical with this just because I wasn't sure if it was like would be a quality read. Like, usually with like books that are based on TV shows or movies aren't, you know, the best quality, but this one actually, like, I was like pleasantly surprised. So if you've watched season 1 and season 2, like this, I think like that's the background you need going into this. So this is like the September leading up to Sabrina's 16th birthday, so like kind of before the pilot episode. And what I really like about this is that there are chapters that are actually in black, and it's what happens in the dark, and they're basically the narratives of the characters, like what they're feeling, their insecurities, and I feel like that did a really good job at building more of the background, and we got to learn more about the characters and things that aren't necessarily discussed in the TV show, like they're alluded to. And this book does a really good job at also kind of foreshadowing things that are going to happen even in part 2. So if you're a fan of a show, like definitely check this one out. Like I said, I was pleasantly surprised and I really liked it. And then they also have another one of these coming out in December, so I'm really excited for that as well. But yeah, like I said, if you like love the show, like you will actually probably really enjoy this book as well. So this is kind of like an adult Harry Potter, and it is Dark Witch by Nora Roberts, and this basically is so like centuries and centuries ago in Ireland, there was this family and then this bad sorcerer and like this family of witches, and they were kind of enemies. So this sorcerer was like after these kids for like throughout the generations, and then the mom sacrifices herself and like nearly kills this sorcerer, and the kids end up getting away, but this sorcerer has been kind of building, like kind of haunting this family and generations, and then when the three are kind of like the right three of the cousins will have like the powers and the capabilities to defeat them, they kind of eventually go out and kind of conquer them. But each book follows one of the three cousins, and I think this one is just fun. Like, I read this a couple years ago and I really enjoyed it, and I really love like the magic system in here. It's very reminiscent of Harry Potter. It's like for adults basically, just with like the sorcerer that's kind of been like haunting and like has a vendetta against this family and then was killed, but not really. But yeah, I really like this. It's really creepy too, some of the way like things are described in here. But yeah, like if you are looking for like a fun, and you're like looking like for a fun adult Harry Potter, I think this is for you. Next, I have an adult fantasy series that I've actually really enjoyed, and it is The Queen of the Tearling by Erika Johansen. I think that cover just like screams Halloween. It's like really dark and twisted, but it's a very dark fantasy series, and it takes place in the future, but it is a regressed society in terms of technology and everything. But basically Kelsey has turned 18 and she has to go back and reclaim her throne, but there is a neighboring kingdom, or queendom I should say, that is kind of borderline on war with them, and when she comes back, there's a lot of political unrest, like separating like religion and state. Like it deals a lot with some of the political stuff that is relevant today, like feminism, how women are treated, but it's very dark and twisted. It has little magic elements in here, but this is one of my favorite fantasy series, and a lot of people like who've read this don't like Kelsey because she's not like a likable character, but I think because she's flawed, but I think that makes her more like human, in my opinion. Like that makes her more realistic. So even though she makes mistakes, like I think that makes her more believable. So give this one a try. It's very like, this is like high fantasy for me. Like this is very like intense for me, but like I had to take notes. But yeah, definitely one of my favorites of all time, and it's really kind of dark and twisted. So if that is for you, I think this would be perfect to read in Halloween. And lastly, I have the Diviners series by Libba Bray, and I really love this series. It's like takes place in the 1920s in New York, and it follows different people who are like diviners, who have some sort of like almost like magic in them. Like one girl can touch like an object and like kind of know the history of it, like all this stuff. So it's really creepy, but like what's really like creepy is there's someone known as like this crow man who's like murdering people, but he's kind of like this like spirit that's like really creepy, and just the way it was described, like I found so terrifying. Like I don't know what it was, but it was just in terms of the atmosphere and just how like the narratives that are told when this guy is going to like murder someone are just really eerie and creepy, and I think this is like perfect to read around Halloween time because of that. But also I feel like the Roaring 20s setting is also really fun and unique as well. So yeah, definitely am a big fan of this series. And then the new book I think comes out in February, so you can like marathon through the first three and then, you know, pick up the fourth one as well. So that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of your favorite Halloween reads are and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.